So long as whatever we amend it to still meets all of the DNR requirements, it can be amended, and we can revise that. And we're willing to do that, because like I say, the plan isn't done until you folks buy the plan, accept what the recommendations are.
Now, I asked you about putting in new RSBs, and you said you wouldn't.
RBC?
Yeah, you wouldn't do that because they don't take phosphorus out.
That's correct, but then again, they don't. Down the road, probably, in all probability, you're going to have to take out phosphorus. So that means that, in the back of your head, you got to keep in mind that you might spend a lot of money to put in RBCs. There's nothing wrong with RBCs. They do the job. But you might, again, in 5 years or 7 years, be asked by DNR to come back and add on to your plant to get the phosphorus taken out. No one knows for sure what that schedule is going to be. 2 years ago, the DNR wasn't going to issue any phosphorus permits for 10 years. Ended up that they issued the first one last fall for the Great Lakes Sanitary District. So they were about 9 years ahead of schedule. So I can't tell you it's going to be 2013. It might be 2 years, it might be 15 years, it might never happen.
And it might be selected areas.
Yeah, that's right.
Concentrating on the Great Lakes up there as they start, or the Iowa Great Lakes, if you will. But whether or not they're just related to lakes to start with, and it's a long time before they get back to the individual communities, they've got a lot of work to do. There's a lot of work to do in Iowa to meet current regulations without the new ones.
I've seen the proposed regulations coming out, and the proposed ones they already have the phosphorus, especially for lagoons. So whether it passes or not, I don't know, but, because they are fighting it. So, it's going to be a process, and I don't see it happening probably within the next 2 years. But
And the regulations are changing. We're doing our best estimate based on the information that we get from DNR of what the regulation will be within the foreseeable future.
The thing that we would hate for you to do is to spend a bunch of money and then find out that in 7 years you got to go back and borrow more money to get yourself in compliance, or that we didn't adequately plan it so that it's easily upgradable to that. And that is very important. We try to set these things out. If you'll notice, the SRF loans typically run for 20 years, or you can get a 30. The plan would be, and this is part of DNR's requirement, that you plan for 20 years, so that when your loan is paid off, you're hopefully still in compliance. And then, unfortunately, it's kind of like having a revolving line of credit. You've got to go back and borrow more money, but at least the hope is that you've paid off what you borrowed the first time. There are a lot of places that haven't been able to do that. They borrow a huge amount of money, and then in 6 or 7 years, they end up borrowing more money. And perhaps a little bit more planning in the beginning might have enabled them not to have to do that. And I'd sure hate to have you guys have to do that.
But again, you'll know the information, you'll know what we know from DNR, so you'll be able to make an informed decision.
Are there any more questions of the gentleman? Dwayne, go ahead.
Yeah, I have a couple, I guess. Are we in violation of anything under normal conditions, the discharge from the plant as it is today?
It depends on the parameter. Some days, total suspended solids has been out seemingly under regular flows. Ammonia has also been out under normal flows, occasionally. But if you look down through the times that it was out, sometimes it was during extremely high flow, sometimes it was during regular flow. So,
Well, now, isn't that high flow that you're referring to normally from rainfall, infiltration into the system, upline somewhere,
Yeah.
rather than actually in the sanitary
infiltration and
sewer?
inflow, yes.
Like next
Yes.
couple days, it'll be higher.
Yeah.
that's exactly correct.
After today.
Right. So wouldn't it be simpler to fix what's causing that first, rather than spend millions of dollars on the plant or a new plant? Aren't those things going to need to be fixed anyway?
Those things in your system will probably need to be fixed. Quite honestly, in chasing I&I, it's difficult to find all the problems. It's difficult to solve them. We work with a lot of communities, and it's a continuing problem, and each community faces it. Each community is fighting it as far as I&I, trying to eliminate it as much as you can. We've had communities where we've lined the sewers, and then the service lines start leaking.
Mm-hmm,
The
sure.
groundwater level just comes up higher, and now I've got water coming in service lines, which are very, very difficult to try to fix. So you can get some return, but it's not a guarantee. As these things age, we can reduce it, typically reduce the I&I, but typically we cannot totally eliminate it in an older system.
Well,
But reduction is a part of it, really is.
Well, it just seemed to me that it would make a whole lot more sense to address that first, rather than spend a lot of money on a plant.
One thing that happens, and don't give me, I'm not trying to be argumentative, but with the regulations right now, rehabbing and reducing the infiltration inflow takes a long time. It isn't something that you can work through in a year and make a significant reduction.
Certainly.
Where I think DNR is going to be after you a lot quicker than that. Say, hey, you must make improvements to your treatment plant because you must come into compliance much sooner. Typically, the infiltration inflow problem, I've not seen many plants that are in need of repair that just fixing the infiltration inflow problems will solve everything that they need to have. And I think the situation here at the plant, it does need repair.
All right.
Ammonia would be a good example of that. Typically, your ammonia doesn't move around a lot based on I&I, and the plant has had problems in the past meeting ammonia requirements. That's really a treatment issue. TSS, however, total suspended solids, can be an I&I issue because now all of a sudden your flow is high, and now the plant has a hard time keeping up.
Well, I know
Ammonia,
there's been times when we've had heavy rains here that storm sewers up by the old Central Park and in that gully that goes across 9th Street actually blowing the lids off of the storm sewer manholes. It tells me there's an awful lot of storm water that's going down the sewer plant.
Can be. And the flows, I think the flows that we see at the treatment plant are significant. They're
yeah.
a lot higher than what you'd get from a normal flow, a normal peak to average flow.
And isn't there some kind of comparison that can be done, if it hasn't already been done, that compares the number of gallons that go through the drinking water treatment plant that goes through the sanitary sewer and see how much difference
Yes.
there is there?
and that's actually, in the facility plan, you bet, we did do comparison of that, and it is significant.
Right.
And there's no doubt about it.
Since '99, you can just look at it, and about between every March and July, all the lines are above
Right.
that.
The big issue is return on your investment.
Certainly.
It absolutely makes sense to keep that water on the plant. The city of Panora, for example, had the same kind of issue, and they ended up deciding it was less expensive to build their plant, improve their plant size, than it was to fix the sewers. So they ended up building more plant and not doing a lot to the sewers. And do I advocate that? Not necessarily. But the issue is, if you do, well, like 11th Street, we've been talking about, I think 1,150 or 1,500 feet of sewer replacement, and it's $1 million to do the streets and the sewers up in there. And if you start adding all those pieces up, there's millions and millions and millions and millions of dollars worth of pipe to fix.
Well, if those pipes are in that kind of a condition that there's that much infiltration, then it seemed to me that they're going to have to be looked at anyway.
You are right on the money. You are right on the money.
Now, there's things other than replacement that we can do. In
Right.
areas where we just have inflow, you can line the sewer.
Right.
In situ form is one of the manufacturers. Cured in place lining, you can line the sewers and make the sewer tight again, but again, you may get water back on the service line. But again, at least your sewer is in good shape where you won't have to worry about that one for a long time. We did some flow monitoring, we did some TV work, but it was just a limited area.